"What has happened to Lochdub?" she demanded. "Lochdu," corrected Hamish gently. "It's pronounced Lochdu." "Whatever." Mrs. Fleming did not like to be corrected. "Why is all that smelly garbage outside the church hall?" "We had a fete to raise money for charity," said Hamish. "Who are you?" "I am Mrs. Frida Fleming, officer for the environment in Strathbane." "Well, Mrs. Fleming, like I was saying, it's because of the fete, all that rubbish." "So, why hasn't it been collected?" "Fergus Macleod, that's the dustman, doesn't collect anything outside collection day. That's not for a couple of days' time." "We'll see about that. Where does he live?" "If you go to Patel's, the general store, and go up the lane at the side, you'll find 4 cottages along the road at the back. It's the last one." "And why aren't you in uniform?" "Day off," said Hamish, hoping she wouldn't check up. "Very well. You'll be seeing more of me. I plan to green Lochdu." With that, she strode off along the waterfront, leaving Hamish scratching his fiery hair in bewilderment. What on earth could she have meant? Perhaps trees, or maybe gardens? But he had enough problems to fill his brain without worrying about Mrs. Fleming's plans. Behind him, and, he hoped, manning the police office, was his new constable, Graeme. Clary was a lazy slob. He had never progressed from the ranks. He rarely washed and slopped around in a shiny old uniform. Then there was the problem of the new hotel. The Lochdu Hotel at the harbour had stood vacant for some years. It had recently been bought by Greek entrepreneur George Ionides. This meant work for the villagers, and Hamish was glad of that. But, on the other hand, he was aware that a new hotel would take custom away from the Tommel Castle Hotel, run by Colonel Halberton Smythe, whose glamorous daughter Priscilla had once been the love of his life. He went into the police station, followed by Lugs. Lugs is the Scottish for ears, and he had called the dog that because of its large ears. In the police station, the fat figure of Clary was snoring gently behind the desk. "I should wake him up," thought Hamish. "But what for? It's as quiet as the grave these days." Clary had strands of grey hair plastered across his pink scalp, and a large grey moustache which rose and fell with every somnolent breath. He had a round, pink face, like that of a prematurely aged baby. His chubby hands were folded across his stomach. The only thing in his favour was that he was a good cook, and no one could call him mean. Most of his salary went on food which he was delighted to cook for Hamish as well as himself. "Oh, well," thought Hamish, closing the office door gently. "I could have got someone worse." Fergus was in the middle of one of his binges, and had he been at home, Mrs. Fleming would have seen to it that he lost his job. But Fergus was lying up in the heather on the moors, sleeping off his latest binge, so it was his wife, Martha, who answered the door. Martha had once been a pretty girl, but marriage, 4 children, and multiple beatings had left her looking tired and faded. Her once thick black hair was streaked with grey, and her eyes held a haunted look. Mrs. Fleming questioned her closely about her husband, and fear prompted Martha to protect the horrible Fergus, for what would they live on if he lost his job? She said he was a hard worker, and the reason he collected the garbage only once a week was because he had one of those old-fashioned trucks where everything had to be manually lifted into it by hand. Mrs. Fleming was pleased by Martha's timid, deferential air. She gave Martha her card and said that Fergus was to report to the council offices at 11 the following morning. "We must see about getting him a new truck," she said graciously. "I have plans for Lochdu." After she had gone, Martha told her eldest, Johnny, to take care of the younger ones, and she then set out to look for her husband. By evening, she had almost given up and was leaning wearily over the humpbacked bridge over the River Anstey. She found herself hoping that he was dead. That would be different from him losing his job. She could get her widow's pension, and when the 3rd child, Sean, was of school age, she could maybe work a shift at the new hotel, if she could get someone to look after the baby. Mrs. Wellington, the minister's wife, had challenged her with the unsympathetic, "You must have known he was a drunk when you married him," but she had not. Certainly he seemed to like his dram, like a lot of Highlanders. She had met him at a wedding in Inverness. He had said he was an accountant and working over at Dingwall. He had courted her assiduously. It was only after they were married and he had moved into the cottage she had inherited from her parents